If someone had told me that the wedding I spent months planning, the flowers, the vows, the songs, wouldn't be mine, I would have laughed. But on the day that should have been the happiest of my life, I watched another woman walk down the aisle under the arch I designed, wearing the smile I had practiced in the mirror. And he, my fiancé, stood waiting for her, wearing the suit I had chosen. Yet the world doesn't end in moments like that. It transforms you. And he never imagined what his betrayal would cost. The morning of my wedding began like a dream painted in sunlight. My heart was racing in excitement, not fear. I remember standing in front of the mirror, my hands trembling as I fixed my veil. My best friend, Clara, squealed beside me, saying I looked like a fairy tale come alive. And I did feel like one. I had waited so long for this moment, to walk toward the man who promised me forever, the man I believed would protect my heart as fiercely as I had guarded his. Daniel was everything I thought love should be, steady, kind, dependable. We had met 4 years ago at a charity event. He was charming, gentle, the kind of man who made you feel safe just by smiling. When he proposed, he didn't need grand gestures. He simply said, "You make me feel like I've come home." And I believed him. For months, I poured my soul into planning our wedding. Every detail carried a memory, every color a promise. The venue was a garden by the lake, surrounded by soft willows that danced in the breeze. I imagined us saying our vows beneath a floral arch wrapped in white lilies and pink roses, my favorite combination. I even designed the invitations myself, handcrafting each one late into the night. Daniel often teased me about how obsessed I was with every tiny detail. But I didn't mind. This wedding was more than a ceremony, it was a reflection of the love I thought we shared. "You have magic in your touch, Amelia," he'd say, watching me work. "I can't wait to see what you do with our big day." I thought I was creating memories. I didn't realize I was building a stage for betrayal. That morning, I was just about to leave for the venue when my phone rang. It was James, Daniel's best friend. His voice was unsteady, like he was forcing words through panic. "Amelia, I think you shouldn't come yet." "Why, what's going on?" I asked, my heart instantly tightening. "There's something you should see first." The world blurred for a moment. I grabbed my keys and left before he could say more. The drive to the venue was short, but every second felt like an eternity. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I kept telling myself it was probably nothing, maybe a decoration mishap, maybe Daniel forgot something. Anything but what my gut already knew. When I arrived, I froze. The scene before me didn't make sense. There were guests already seated, strangers I had never seen in my life. The decorations were exactly as I had planned, from the ivory drapes to the rose centerpieces. But the energy, the atmosphere, it wasn't mine. And then I saw him. Daniel stood at the altar, looking nervous but radiant. He was holding hands with a woman in white. A woman who wasn't me. Her name was Lily, his first love, the one he had told me about once, in a voice heavy with regret. He said she had left him years ago, that she had broken his heart, and that loving me had healed the wound she left behind. But there she was, smiling softly, her eyes locked on his as if no time had passed. My Daniel, my fiancé, was about to marry her. Using my plan, my venue, my dream. I stood there frozen, unable to breathe. The laughter of guests, the music, the soft chatter, all of it faded until the only thing I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat. Shattering. James saw me first. His face went pale, and he quickly rushed toward me, whispering, "Amelia, I'm so sorry." I tried to stop him. But I couldn't respond. My voice, my strength, everything was gone. Daniel's head turned, his eyes finding mine across the garden. The color drained from his face. He looked like a man caught between guilt and disbelief. He took a step forward, but Lily's hand gripped his tightly, and he stopped. That was all I needed to see. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things or demand answers. I simply turned around and walked away. Because in that moment, the silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. Hours later, as the sun began to set, Daniel came home. Alone. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He looked like someone who had seen his life crumble in real time. "She found out," he said quietly. "Lily, she realized what I did and left. She said she couldn't start a marriage based on betrayal." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, numbness replacing pain. So the wedding didn't happen. He shook his head, voice breaking. Amelia, I was confused. I thought marrying you was the right thing. You're so good, so loyal. But when Lily came back, I thought I could fix the past. I thought I could have both, stability and passion. I was wrong. I see that now. Please, don't leave me. We can fix this. I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see the man I loved. I saw a coward, a man who used my love as a safety net while chasing another. His apology didn't reach me. It was like throwing water at a fire that had already burned everything to ashes. Daniel, I said softly, you didn't just destroy our wedding. You destroyed everything I believed about you. He stepped closer, desperate. Amelia, please, but I cut him off. You didn't choose me, Daniel. You used me. His face fell, his lips trembling as if he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. I turned away before the tears could fall again. That night, I packed my things quietly. I didn't slam doors or shout accusations. I simply left. My wedding dress hung on the closet door, still untouched, still perfect, like a ghost of a future that never came true. Before leaving, I wrote one line on the kitchen counter with a sticky note. Some lessons cost too much. This one's yours. When I stepped outside, the night air felt cold but freeing. I looked back once, at the apartment where I had built so many dreams, and I realized, I didn't need him to find happiness. I just needed to walk away from the wreckage he made. As I drove off, I whispered to myself, you didn't ruin my life, Daniel. You redirected it. And that was the moment I stopped being the woman who planned a wedding for love that didn't exist, and became the woman who would rebuild herself from the ashes of betrayal. He had used my wedding plan to marry his first love. But what he didn't know was that he'd just written the first chapter of my rebirth. He used my wedding plan to marry his first love, but what he never expected was that his betrayal would build the foundation of my success. I was the woman he thought would crumble, but instead, I became the woman he'd spend the rest of his life regretting losing. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come wrapped in anger. It comes in the form of peace, power, and a smile that no longer remembers the pain. 2 years had passed since that unforgettable day. The day my heart broke quietly in a garden dressed for love. The day I walked away from Daniel, and from the version of myself that believed love had to hurt to be real. In those 2 years, I rebuilt everything he had destroyed, starting with my name. Amelia Hart. It used to sound fragile, soft, uncertain. But now, it echoed strength. I took all the energy I had once poured into our wedding and turned it into something greater, a business. At first, it was just me, a notebook, and a second-hand laptop. I started offering small event planning services, birthday parties, baby showers, small weddings. Word spread fast. People said I had an eye for beauty, a heart that understood meaning. Every event I created carried a story, a message, something that went beyond decoration. Slowly, my name began appearing in magazines, blogs, and interviews. Within a year, Amelia Hart Designs became one of the most sought-after luxury event planning brands in the city. It was poetic, really, the woman who had her dream wedding stolen now creating dream weddings for others. But it wasn't fame that healed me. It was purpose. Every couple I worked with reminded me that love still existed, that real love didn't deceive, didn't use, didn't betray. And every successful event whispered to me, you're no longer the girl who was left. You're the woman who rose. Then one morning, my assistant rushed into my office, waving a new client file. Amelia, you won't believe who wants to hire us, she said, excitement and disbelief mixing in her tone. I looked up from my laptop, smiling. Who? Daniel Reed. For a second, I froze. The name felt distant, like a shadow from another lifetime. She continued, he's organizing a charity gala for his company. They specifically requested you. I took the file, my fingers steady despite the rush of memories. It was ironic, almost cruelly poetic. The man who had used my talent for his betrayal now wanted to use it again, but this time, I wasn't the naive bride-to-be. I was a woman who charged for her magic. When I walked into the conference room that afternoon, Daniel was already there. His back was turned, but I recognized the shape of his shoulders, the way he ran a hand through his hair when he was nervous. He turned as I entered, and for a brief moment, his eyes widened. Amelia, he whispered, as if saying my name for the first time in years. He looked older. The confidence that once made him glow now flickered faintly. There were lines around his eyes, marks of regret carved deep. "Mr. Reed," I said professionally, taking my seat. "Let's discuss your event." He blinked, almost startled by my calm tone. You look amazing. You've changed." I smiled politely. Change is necessary when survival demands it. The meeting went on smoothly. I presented concepts, designs, themes. He listened quietly, occasionally sneaking glances at me, like a man watching a ghost he thought he'd buried. When the meeting ended, he said softly, "You're really doing well, Amelia." I met his gaze. "I am. Thank you for noticing." That night, as I reviewed the details of the event, I caught myself thinking, not of the pain he caused, but of how far I'd come. I no longer felt bitterness. What I felt was power. He had tried to define me by my heartbreak, but I had rewritten the story in ink he could never erase. Weeks passed, and we worked together frequently on the gala. He tried, several times, to bridge the silence between us, but I kept it professional. He'd ask questions about my life, my success, the people I worked with, but I never gave him more than polite answers. One evening, during a late meeting at the venue, he finally spoke what had been lingering in his eyes. "I never stopped thinking about that day," he said, voice low. "About what I did to you. Every time I see something beautiful, I think of how you would have made it better. I'm sorry, Amelia, truly sorry." I didn't look at him right away. I adjusted a vase on the table, aligning it perfectly before answering. "You're not sorry for what you did, Daniel. You're sorry for what it cost you." He sighed heavily, leaning against a chair. "You're right, it cost me more than I ever imagined." Lily left not long after. She said I was selfish, that I didn't know what I wanted. She was right too. I finally turned to face him. His eyes looked weary, but I saw something there, humility. Maybe even truth. But that didn't change anything. "You made your choices," I said gently. "And so did I." He smiled sadly. "You were always stronger than I was." The night of the gala arrived in all its glory. The ballroom shimmered with elegance, gold lights reflecting off crystal chandeliers, white roses cascading across silver tables, and soft music filling the air. Everything was perfect, just as I had planned. When Daniel stepped on stage to give his speech, the crowd fell silent. He spoke about second chances, about rebuilding after mistakes. And then, unexpectedly, he looked directly at me. "There's one person I want to thank," he said, his voice firm yet trembling. "Someone who taught me what grace looks like, even after betrayal. Amelia Hart, this night is beautiful because of you. You've shown me what true strength means." Applause filled the room. I smiled politely, though my heart ached. Not from pain, but from the bittersweet realization that I had finally closed the last chapter of that story. After the event, as the guests left and the lights dimmed, Daniel approached me one last time. "Amelia," he said quietly, "I know I don't deserve it, but I hope one day you can forgive me." I looked at him, the man who once shattered me, and felt only peace. "I already did," I replied. "Not for you, but for me." He smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "You're even more incredible than I remember." "Maybe," I said, gathering my folder. "But the difference is, I finally remember who I am without you." As I walked out of the ballroom, the night air wrapped around me like freedom. The city lights reflected off the glass buildings, each one a reminder of how far I had come. My heart felt light, my steps sure. Somewhere behind me, Daniel stood alone among the fading lights of his own creation, watching the woman he once betrayed walk away. Not in pain this time, but in power. He used my wedding plan to marry his first love. But I used his betrayal to marry my destiny. And that was the ending he never expected, the kind where the woman doesn't need to destroy him to win. She just has to outgrow him. Because real revenge isn't loud. It's living so beautifully that the person who broke you can never look at you without remembering the light they lost.